Tov, today's daf yomi is Sanhedrin Samach Gimel, Sanhedrin 63. Today's daf is dedicated for Shemir for the Chayalim. That's all for the Shvuyim and Yeshua for Am Yisrael. It's 8 Sarah. We'll start with the last word on 62b and then really going to the top of 63a, Samach Gimel Amid Aleph, Kufa. Amar Rabbi Yami, Diveach, Lakiter, Venisach, Be'elam Echad. So let's say a person worships idolatry and he does different acts, but all with one forgetting. He slaughtered, he burned as an incense, he did a libation, and then somebody told him that this is avodah zarah, you can't be doing this. So with one forgetting, Eino chayav el chatas achas, he's only going to be liable for one sin offering. That's the position of Rabbi Ami. So Amar Abaye, my time with Rabbi Ami. What's the reasoning for Rabbi Ami? And he says it's based upon a pasuk. Amar Kra lo savdeim. It says in the pasuk you cannot worship them. Because of us on kulan avodah achas. The Torah makes them all as though they're one avoda, and so therefore you get one sin offering if there's just one halama. So then the Gemara says, "Umi Amar Abaye Hachi." Does Abaye really say this? Amar Abaye Shalosh Ishtachavos Ba'avodas Kochavim Lama. Why does it say the prohibition against bowing down to an idolatry three times? It says it in the Aseres Adibros, and it says it in Kisisa. Rashi says Kilos Ishtachavil El Acher and Los Ishtachavil Elohem in our parasha. Mishpatim. So the reason is, and Rashi says we don't count the Aseres Adibros because that's just a repetition of the first one. We don't count it as two separate Shtachavas. So I want to say it three times. Achas l'kedarka. One is you're not allowed to bow down if that's a typical way of serving this idol. Achas shelo kedarka. One is if it's not the typical way of serving this idol, you still can't bow down. And then the third way is achas l'chalik, is to draw a distinction between each. If you did multiple acts, you bring a sin offering, one for each act that you do. So we see from here. It's not like Rabbi Ami. Abaye is arguing with Rabbi Ami. So the Gemara says, with Rav Rabbi Ami Kamar. Abaye was explaining Rabbi Ami when he said well, it's from Los Ishtachavim, but he himself doesn't agree with that. With Rav Rabbi Ami Kamar, but he doesn't agree with it. So then the Gemara says, let's analyze this. Kufa Amar Abaye Shalosh Ishtachavos Ba'avodas Kochavim Lama. Why do we have three Ishtachavayos by idolatry? So one is l'kedarka, achas l'kedarka, v'achas l'chalik. And the Gemara says, let's analyze this statement. L'kedarka, what do you mean you are not from Los Ishtachavim? Me'echa you have to agayim ma'ela naka. You are not from a different prohibition. It says, let's see how these goyim worship. Ela achas kedarka v'shalo kedarka. One is they know how to bow down, even though that's not. Rashi says, meaning to say the way that it's kedarka shalo kedarka. I mean, the way to worship this idol is in an honorable way and not bowing down. So it's not shalo kedarka by bowing down. There are some idols where you have to act in a disgusting manner, like Baal Peor by defecating. But this idol you treat with respect as a way of worshiping it. And so there's also a prohibition of mishtachava in that case. And then the other one is shelo kedarka, and then it's l'chalik. So then the Gemara says, and the Mishnah had stated, "I'm a kabbalah of the loa." If you accept the idol as your god, you're chayiv. And also, Omer lo Eliat. If you say to the idol, "You are my god," you're chayiv. So the Gemara says, "But why?" Amar Rav Nachman. No, the Gemara says a different statement. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rav Barabu, Amar Rav. That Rav says, "Keep it Shemer lo Eliata." Once you say you are my god, then chayiv. Then you're going to be liable. So the Gemara says, "Lamai." What are you liable for? Ilukatoa. If you're liable for death, masnisini. It's an explicit mission. You're liable for death. El carbon. That means you're liable to bring a sacrifice. If that's all it's saying, I feel a rabbanon. Then even the rabbanon would say you're. Then the Gemara is asking, even according to rabbanon, would you be chayiv a carbon? Is that what Rav is saying? But we learned in the Brisa, chayiv el davar sheyesh b'ma'isa. You're only liable for something with an action, like zivuach, v'kitur, v'nitzach, v'shtachava. You're liable for something with an action like a sacrifice, a libation, and bowing down. Who's the one who says that bowing down is considered an action? That's Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva says we don't need an action in order to be liable for idolatry. And they call it the Rabbanon Savri, but in a Maisa, the rabbis say you need an action. And so if you just say you are my God, according to the rabbis, it's not an action. Now the Gemara says, Ki kamar Rav Namu Rabbi Akiva kamar. No, Rob was only saying this that you're liable for you saying that you're liable to bring a sin offering only according to the position of Rabbi Akiva. He's saying, we're Kiva Pshita. That's obvious. Why does he need to tell us this? Hainu Megadef. That's the same as Birkas Hashem. And Rabbi Akiva we already know that you're liable according to Rabbi Akiva for that. So we're saying, no, Ma'azatema, Ad Kal Machayev Rabbi Akiva Karban Alba Megadef. He might have said Rabbi Akiva. They might have said that Rabbi Akiva says that you're liable for an offering by Megades because there is kares. But here there's no kares by this idolatry by saying that. So amalo. So you might have said you're not liable. So kamash one we say you are. This kushe is kushe because it's compared to it. It says this because it says by the golden calf. So it compares saying to bowing down. When it says by the golden calf, this is your God Israel, Asher Ha'alucha in the plural, it took you up from Egypt. If it had not said it in the plural, in the Chayva R'Shem Shel Yisrael Koy, then the enemies of the Jewish people would be the Jewish people would have been completely destroyed. But by putting Elohecha Yisrael, Asher Ha'alucha in the plural, they're saying that the golden calf had the help of Hashem. So Ketanai. So the Gemara says, well, this is actually a dispute amongst the Tanaim. The Acherim say that. But anybody who combines God's name with something else, meaning God has a partnership with someone else, that person is destroyed from the world. It's built Hashem Levado. It's only God by himself. Why does it say that you took that? This is your God that took you up in the plural. Those who worship the golden calf were desiring many gods. It says, if you embrace, if you kiss, if you honor the idol, or you sprinkle on the floor. For all them you get lashes, except if you swear by the name of the idol or you take a vow by the name. Why if you take a vow, we swear you don't get lashes. The Gemara says, why not? Why don't you get lashes? Because it's a prohibition without an action. But the first category, it's a general prohibition, and so it's an umbrella prohibition. It's called a lav shebecholos. And so since it's a lav shebecholos, then because they're all learned down in one pasuk, and they're all learned down in one pasuk. Rashi says either al tachu acharim or else al tefnu al yilim. All these prohibited acts fit under that category, and we have a general principle that you don't get lashes for a lav shebecholos. It's not behema. It says in the Brisa, how do you know if you eat an animal, call them shetezi nafsha? You slaughter it, but it's still going through its death rattle. You can't eat from its food. You can't eat from it. How do we know that? Because it says lo tochel al adam. Because it's shubuotas. I say tamomer lo tochel adam. You can't eat on the blood. Alternatively, what does it mean lo tochel adam? Lo tochel basar v'dayin dam b'mizrach. You can't eat the meat while the blood is still in the basin until it's sprinkled on the mizbeach. How do you know that you don't make a Suda Savara, a mourner's meal for those executed by the court? It says you cannot eat on the blood. So Rabbi Akiva Omer Minayla Sanhedrin Shargu as a Nefesh Shein Tom and Klum Kolosayom. How do we know that if the Sanhedrin kills somebody, executes somebody, they don't taste anything that whole day? And one more statement, says the Gemara, and this is the statement of Rabbi Yochanan Omer. Rabbi Yochanan says, and Marshal changes it to Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina Omer, and some say Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina. I'm Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina. Asar ben, because we're all quoting Tanaim, so it doesn't make sense. Rabbi Yochanan. So Asar ben Sor Mora Minayin. How do we know that a ben Sor Mora is warned? And what's the ben Sor Mora do? That he first steals steak and drinks a half lug of Italian wine. So how do we know he's warned? Because it says Lotocho al Adam. So all of these are azaros, but it's an umbrella azar because it refers to many things. So therefore you're not going to get lashes for any of them. Why? Because it's a general category of a prohibition. So therefore you don't get lashes for any of them. For all of them you don't get lashes. You don't get lashes for any of them except for the person takes a vow in God's name, he reverses a vow in the idol's name, and holds an oath in the idol's name. Why in these cases do you not get the vow? Because why in the first cases do you not get lashes? Because they're lav shebecholos, because it's a general prohibition. Well, nami, well, also the noder shom mekayim you should also not get lashes because lav shem ma'asin ninu, because there's no action associated with them. Mar says no Rabbi Yehuda. No, this statement of Ravin in the name of Rebbe Lazar is in agreement with Rabbi Yehuda, who says Lav Shem Maisa Lokinov. You do get lashes for a prohibition without an action. The Tanya was a Sirum Imenu Boker, because it says you're not allowed to leave anything over until morning. But and then it says in the pasuk Sirum Imenu Boker, I know Sirum Imenu Boker, but Ish Tesrofu. You have to burn it. So ba kosa v'tina se'acharosa. So there's a positive commandment after the negative commandment. Lamar to tell you she'ein lokinov, that you don't get lashes. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, but Rabbi Yaakov says, no, that doesn't make sense. The reason why you don't get lashes is because it's a prohibition without an action. And Rabbi Yaakov says any prohibition without an action, you don't get lashes for me. Called Rabbi Yehuda several local ones. So we see Rabbi Yehuda says you do get lashes. I know there b'shmo v'amakayim b'shmo. I raised that what does say. What does it mean? I know there b'shmo v'amakayim b'shmo, that if you take a vow by the idol's name and you take an oath, you are in violation of a prohibition. We know what's the source for this. What's the source that you're in violation of prohibition? Because it says v'shem Elohim achirim lo tazkiru. You're not allowed to mention their God. Shelo yomar adam l'chavero. So you can't say to your friend, Shmor, wait for me, b'tzad avodas kochav ponis, next to this idol. Well, yishama picha, you can't mention it. Shelo yidor b'shmo, you can't take a vow by his name. Well, yikayim b'shmo, you can't take an oath. Well, yigrom l'acherim sheyadur b'shmo, and you can't cause others to swear by his name. Yikayim b'shmo, and to uphold their vows by his name. Davar acher, alternatively, lo yishama picha. What does that mean? This is a warning against inciting an individual or subverting an entire town. Gemara says mesa it's inexplicitly so it must be it's a warning against the subverter. You can't cause others to swear by the idol's name. This supports the position of Shmuel. A person is not allowed to make a partner with an idolater. Maybe the guy, they'll have a dispute, and the guy will have to take an oath. And he'll take an oath by his idol's name. And Torah says you can't listen to his voice. So Rabbeinu Tam says, nevertheless, nowadays all of them swear by their holy objects, referring to he was living amongst the Christians, and they don't think it's God. And even though they are mentioning their deity, their intention is for something else. That's what Tosfos writes. That's what he writes. Their name, this is not idolatry. It's not the name of idolatry. And also, their intent is for the one who created the heavens, even though they use the name of Yeshua Notri. And even though they have a shituf, they have what's called a trinity, we don't find that you're not allowed to cause others to make a shituf. And there's no lifnei ivar. So therefore, he says, that's why they're able to do business with their Christian neighbors. When Ula came along, he said, Bas Kalnabo. When Ula came from Eretz Yisrael, he went and he slept in a town called Kalnabo, which was named for an idol who was named Nevo. Amar Rabba ve'echa bas mar. He said, where'd you sleep? Amar but Kalnavo. Amar way. But he said, how can you mention this name? Amrway, he says to him, no, it's mentioned in the Torah, so I can mention it. But where is it mentioned? It says in Isaiah, bow down Bel Kores Nivo. We'll see what that means. Vilo Ksiva Lo. We'll see what that means. Vilo Ksiva Lo. If it's not mentioned in Torah, you can't do it. Masav Ramasharshia. What about Ra Achas Meruba Shalosh? He saw one person saw in the mission that lasted 3 times as long. Shehi Gideon Shiloh. The time it takes to walk from Gideon to Shiloh. Shein Shnei Tvuos or Shnei Sivos. And that's the difference. Since the time it takes to take 2 immersions and 2 dryings. Harezes of Gomer. That person would be a complete zav, and Gadion is the name of an idolatry. That's what Rashi says, and that the Rosh says that it's a place where they established the Greeks established our idolatry. So Amar Avina, not God nami mechtav. The word Gadion is also written the chsiv haorchem l'gad shulchan. Amar Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman says, Kol Tzunusa Asira. He says, you're not allowed to do any mockery, except for the Litzanos of idolatry. The Sharia, that's going to be permitted. Hold on 1 second. Okay, the Litzanos of idolatry is permitted. They'll say, Karab al Kores. What does that mean? Karstu Karu Yachtav Lo Yachum Masa. Meaning to say, the Baal Navo, who's their God, of the Bavel Karu, they bent down the Karsu, meaning to say like they have a stomach ache and they weren't able to go to the bathroom in time and they had an accident, and so you're making fun of the idolatry of Ksiv, and it states Dibru glow space oven Yaguru Shechen Shomron Ki Aval Alav Amo Chamarav Alav Yagiru Al Klodoki Gawa Mimeno. Al Tikri Kvodo El Kvedo, meaning to say that they had difficulty going to the bathroom. And then it came out in a messy manner. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak Michael said, "V'atayu sifu achato biasu amasecha mikaspam kitvunam atzabim." What does that mean? Ma kitvunam atzabim. Melamed shkol echad ve'echad asa dmut yira. So each one of the idols, each one of the idolaters made a form of his idol. Manicha bekiso. He put it in his pocket. And Mishal Shazokra, when he remembered him, he took it out from his bosom and he kissed it and he embraced it. What does it mean? What does that mean? It means the following. Those who worship idolatry, they used to put their eyes on people who had a lot of money and they wanted to get their money. So they would starve their calves, and then they would make the image of these wealthy people, Ma'amidim Mitzadaf Hussein, put it next to the animals. So the animals would associate food with these images. They would take the animals outside, keeping Shira'u. So once they saw these people had a lot of money, they would run after them, and they would just run over them in order to eat them. And when the idolaters would say, the idols like you. They say, go worship yourself. And then they presumably would take the money of the person in tithe. But that doesn't fit with the tithe. Because the verse says, those who slaughter a man, should kiss their calves. It's not exact. It should be Agalam Yishakum with Baruch Adam Mibarle. It should say the calves kiss those who you're about to slaughter. Elam Arava Akol Azaveach Haspino Avodat Kochavim Omrim Lo Doron Gadol Hikrivlo. Whoever slaughters his son to idolatry, we say to him, you brought a great gift. Hikrivlo. The idolaters say to him, if you slaughter your son to idolatry, you brought a great gift. You sacrificed him Yavav Yishaklo, and therefore you should come and kiss it. Meaning to say, that once they slaughter, they also want to kiss. What does that mean? Mind you, turn to go that the people of Bavel They made a idolatry that's called Sukkot Banot. What is it? That's a hen. Vanche Kut also at Nergo, what Mainil Tarnagol, that's a rooster. Vanche Chamas also at Ashima, Mainil, that's Parcha Tarcha, that's a wild goat. Va'avim also Nivchaz, that's Tartek, Mainil, that's a Kelev and a Chamor. That's a donkey and a dog and a donkey. Masvarvim Sorfim es Beneim, Ve'esh Rajamelch, Van Melch Oahei, Sifarvim, Mainil, what's that? That's a parrot, that's a mule, Vasus, and a horse. These are who they're worshiping. Adar Melech, the other way Mara, that they agoet b'te'ina, that they, why is it called Adar Melech? Meaning to say, it honors its master, that basically the master puts his burden on its neck. Adar Melech, the Anile Mari Bekirva, because it answers its master in battle, the horse. Vav Chizkiel Melch Yehuda, also Chizkiel, the king of Yehuda, Bikesh Aviv, his father wanted to sacrifice him. His mother, Chizkiel's mother, wiped him with the blood of a small creature called a salamander that would go out of an oven that had burned him for 7 years straight. And if you were smeared with its blood, then the fire won't roll over you and it won't get burnt. And so therefore, Chizkiel did not burn. Amrav Yehuda Marav Yodina Yisrael Bo, this Kolam Shema Mamish, the Jewish people know that the idols have no mamash. As soon as they know there's nothing there. The low abdu avodas kacham. The only reason why they worshipped idolatry, el the hater lahem arais b'farsim. It was all a ruse. They wanted to do the pritzus. They wanted to do the arayos in public. They wanted to do the licentiousness. So they associate themselves with the idolatry, so they be able to do that. Master from the Sharish, yeah. So he challenges them. What about the fact that it says in the verse, Kiskor b'neim mizbechotzam? No, it's like a person that they had strong desires. Like Gemara says, no, first they were attached through the idolatry, and then through the licentiousness, and then they actually liked it. Gemara challenges again that they didn't really like the idolatry. So it says Eliyahu Tzaddik. This really is a reference to Eliyahu, and Navi Mir is called a Tzaddik. Why? Because the Chachamim said he's compared to Moshe, that they both came from the tribe of Levi, Moshe and Eliyahu, and both of them redeemed Israel. Moshe that redeemed them in Egypt, and Elijah in Mashiach. And Moshe is called a tzaddik because it says Yismach tzaddik. So therefore, the Chachamim also compared Eliyahu here. It says the commentaries, and this is Eliyahu and Navi. So he found a little boy, and it says in the verse that Eliyahu Tzaddik would see all the people who were starving in Yerushalayim. Once found a little kid. He was in the garbage. He says, which family are you from? You know what? He says, I'm from this family. The Kum Nishtar Mishpacha now says, is anybody left? I'm a little lab. Put their money, just me. I'm a little Manimulam Kadavar Shatachaibo Atawa made. If I teach you something that you can live by, will you say it? Hey, and he says, yes, I'm a say every day Shema Yisrael. So he says, Has, Shalom Akir B'Shem Hashem. The boy said, quiet, don't mention the name of God. Shalom Limdu Aviv V'Imo, because his father and mother didn't teach him properly. He immediately took out his idol from his coat to and he kissed it and hugged it until his belly died from hunger. And then it fell on the ground. And then he fell on it. So fulfilled the verse. So we see from this brisa that the Jewish people had a real cleaving to idolatry, and they wanted to worship it. So why did Rav say that they did not have idolatry for the idolatry itself? So this was also Basar Davikabay after they became attached through the licentiousness. All right, we'll stop here. Baruch Hashem, we'll stop here. Yashakoach.